this story where when Gandhi's father brought his daughter in front of Buddha, and the mother also followed. And then Gandhi's father introduced the daughter, and she was the most beautiful woman who lived at that time, and said, Buddha, here is my daughter. So Buddha looked at the mother was behind, and he said, which one is your daughter? So he said, Buddha, this is my daughter, because she's young and mother is old. And ask again, which one is your daughter? So Gandhi's father got the message immediately, few minutes, that because he did the analysis, he had the intelligence part of your consciousness, which tells you, yes, it is only a time factor, because the body, it decays anyway. So this beauty that you are talking about, it changes all the time. But we tend to think that tomorrow it's going to be the same, and day after it's going to be. But it is changing whether you like it or not. So it is not permanent. And therefore, it's very, very simple thing. Now, similarly, he has given so many examples where people have understood in few minutes, because all you need is a little bit of intelligence and the analytical skills to understand what it is. So therefore, to answer your question, do you need to go through this tedious exercise, and then it's a sansaric journey, and you have to wait for years and years to finally reach the nirvana? I don't think so, because any philosophy or any religion should, if you try it, when you drink a glass of water, it resolves the. So somewhat Dhamma, if you practice it, or whatever you do, you should be able to see the results immediately. And that's what the Buddhism is all about. It says you do this, you will see the results immediately. It's not, you are sort of suddenly going to Devaloka or something, but you see the results immediately. So therefore, the mission impossible is not really true.
Now that you told all that, sir, I remember before this discussion, we had a discussion prior to this Dhammahadaya program. And you told me about your personal experience. You told me that you knew when you were in your 20s, you knew a lot of Dhamma, and you could remember a lot of things about the Dhamma, having been born to a traditional Buddhist family. But then as time went by, you said you tend to forget those, and later on you realized that, well, it's not that important to remember all that. Would you like to relate it to our viewers? I think it's really important.
Yes. Of course, the interest to explore what is taught in Buddhism, it didn't occur to me yesterday, but even when I was in the 20s, we were doing a lot of studies. I used to visit this Maitri Hall in Bambalapiti. Every Saturday they used to have this Dhamma discussion, and I used to listen to scholars like Dr. Tudor Senanayaka, and learn a lot of Buddhism at that time. I used to listen to this Buddhist forum. There was a Buddhist channel, I don't remember now which channel it was, and then memorize a lot of sutras. And I love to, speak on various subjects. And then, of course, there was a time that I lived abroad for some time. And I met quite a number of people who live in the Western world. And, of course, they have listened to Dhamma, they have been practicing Dhamma. And when you speak to them, well, their knowledge about sutras and abhidhammas and it was very little. But whatever they had to say, there's a lot of in-depth in what they have discovered. And then I realized that, some of course haven't had the opportunity of even reading a Dhamma book, but they themselves have, some of course couldn't convey very effective, but nevertheless, if you look at their lifestyles and what they say, there's so much of Maitri, there's so much of compassion. There isn't a single word like, we say, speaking about Buddha, rahasing wat paunokala, some, that kind of, like embodiments of virtues, you can see in them. And then, where is the knowledge? So you see the difference between the knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
So then eventually when I returned, of course you are quite busy with your day-to-day. You have a job, and then you have to make a living, so you do not have that much of time for this. But I met a young Buddhist monk some 3 years ago at a function where he was invited to give a sermon. And then after hearing that, I asked my friend who invited me as to where this monk came from. Then to find out he's actually living close to where I live. So I went to see him, and I had a discussion with him for a short while, and he is the one who described this self, the artificial self that we have created. So you actually have two persons in you. One is your beingness, and the other one is the self that you yourself have created, which has a designation, which has a name, which has a position in the society, which has aspirations, ambitions, all that. And he said, drop all that and then ask yourself who you are. It makes you think differently, you remove all that, all these labels, positions. And you even forget that you are a man or a woman, And then ask yourself this question, and that gives you some kind of another way to look at it. Most interesting thing that happened at this discussion was I asked him, I said, Venerable Sir, can I come back and see you, because I like this discussion and I think I learned a lot, much more than what I used to learn long years ago through the books. And he said, yes, of course, you can come at any time, but I'm afraid I have to tell you that I will tell you the same thing. I have nothing more to add. So I suppose the message is simple. And it cannot be. And I saw in him.
So it was a life-changing experience for you.
It is, and you start thinking differently. Because this is very important, and this is one of the reasons I believe why Buddha had to use a different technique. After all, he was the greatest orator ever lived. If you look at, how he used the language to convince people on certain things and dispel their perceptions, notions. And that is because each one has to think in his or her own way to understand this.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing that experience with our viewers, sir. And now talking about the path leading to Nibbana, or the goal of all Buddhists, Nirvana or Nibbana or enlightenment. Now, the path leading to it is taught to be Sila, Samadhi and Prajna. Now this might, make some of our Buddhists think or believe that, cultivating the Sila, Samadhi and Prajna may take a long period in samsara, might be eons. But does that mean that we cannot attain Nibbana or enlightenment within this life itself?
I don't know whether it is correct to compartmentalize, Sila, and then you go through that, and then you move on to Samadhi, and then finally it's Prajna. I do not know if that is, of course, in theoretical terms, when someone has to put it down in writing, perhaps it is necessary that you observe certain virtues so that you will not go off the track, and then Samadhi is focusing, and but to get indulged in some of these theoretical words, it can completely take you to a different sphere of thinking completely, and obscure your view, so that you might not be, because keeping an open mind all the time is what is necessary. That inquiring mind, investigative mind, and even meditation. For example, now Samadhi is described as, it is said that meditation is heart of Buddhism. Yes, it is meditation, but meditation on what? It's like one might say, you can ask someone, I'm meditating on metta. Some I have come across who are meditating on metta for years. But if that if that metta, if that transformation doesn't take place within you, and if you do not become someone who extends metta wherever you go, whoever you meet, and if you do not see that person extending metta in every aspect in his or her life, then it is only a belief that when I go and sit and meditate on metta for 2 hours, I gain a lot of merits, which is a misconception. So this is the danger in having these compartments and say, okay, you have to go through this and then get into the next compartment, and that can mislead you. Because if Sopaka attained prajna immediately, I do not know why it's not possible for intelligent society to do this analysis and see that it is only this present moment that you have, and therefore you make this commitment now.
Okay, now listening to all that you said, I just thought of this wonderful quote by the Buddha. I quote, "Things are not what they appear to be, and nor are they otherwise." Would you like to elaborate on this?
This is really interesting. Things are not what they appear to be, nor are they otherwise. It directly deals with the perceptions of people.
Okay.
You see, what happens is, now speaking about this artificial self in which you live, and they say you are living in a dream, and you are supposed to come out of this dream. And this quote and of what the Buddha has said is mainly revolving around these perceptions, because what you perceive today is different to what you perceive tomorrow on the same thing. But today you will say someone is very good, and a week later you will say no, he's not so good. And
it has changed.
This perception keeps changing. It's because you look at it from yourself that you have created, and that is why your perceptions change. But it's only when you are able to realize that this self is artificial, all you have is your beingness, and that beingness is associated with eternal peace or the silence, and then it will be without perceptions. And this is why in one of the occasions when someone asked Buddha, how to reach nirvana, and his answer was something like, if you hear something, you have only heard it, and if you feel something, you have only felt it,
And if you saw something, you have only seen it for that moment.
And that's about all. You don't create perceptions, because perceptions change. And in business world, they say perception is reality, because you deal with people, so you play with perceptions of people to sell your product or service. But in reality, perception is not real, because it keeps changing. So that is, I think, this version fits in. What you see, do not. You just said that it's not what it appears to be, nor is it otherwise. It's beautifully fits into this situation, because